We've gotten our first look into the first few days of the Trump administration's day-to-day, and it is really, really bad. The Trump administration is in disarray. Donald Trump is reportedly demoralized because he knows millions of people are questioning the legitimacy of his presidency. Apparently, he's constantly just watching TV and super focused on tweeting instant responses in many cases to stuff he sees on TV instead of doing presidential stuff. It's like there's a little kid in the White House. Here is a quote from a Washington Post article about this from a couple of days ago. Many critics thought Spicer, referring to Sean Spicer, went too far and compromised his integrity. But in Trump's mind, Spicer's attack on the news media was not forceful enough. The president was also bothered that the spokesman read, at times haltingly, from a printed statement. So Trump not happy with Sean Spicer's public apologia for completely debunked lies from Donald Trump, also from the Washington Post article. Trump has been resentful, even furious, at what he views as the media's failure to reflect the magnitude of his achievements, and he feels demoralized that the public's perception of his presidency so far does not necessarily align with his own sense of accomplishment. Then there's a Salon expose about Trump's reported fixation or addiction to watching TV. Mike Allen and Jim Vanderhei of Axios said that, listen, Trump doesn't read books and he avoids reports that are really long, that he considers to be too long. He doesn't use computers. He rarely uses a phone for anything but calls. Even those infamous tweets from Trump are usually dictated to someone and submitted by others. But the TV watching aspect is starting to concern some aides. Here's a quote from the Axios story. Most mornings, Trump flicks on the TV and watches Morning Joe, often for long periods of time, sometimes interrupted with texts to the hosts or panelists. After the 6 a.m. hour of Joe, he's often on to Fox and Friends by 7 a.m. with a little CNN before or after. He also catches the Sunday shows, especially Meet the Press. The shows, as he calls them, often provoke his tweets. The day of our interview with him, all of his tweet topics were discussed during the first 2 hours of Morning Joe. This is having an impact, a negative one. And on Saturday, when Trump saw that TV networks were talking about his tepid inauguration turnout compared to President Obama's impressive inauguration turnout in 2009, he became so furious. And I guess his staff, Pat, were trying to tell him to just ignore stuff and not start tweeting. And they could not convince him not to tweet. And that's when Trump started tweeting about it.
And it's just so concerning that he's watching TV around the clock. I mean, I get it. The guy's a narcissist and he's getting a lot of validation because they're covering him all the time.
Yeah.
But when you combine narcissism with just being lazy, I mean, that's a dangerous combination.
Well, everything we suspected about Trump in terms of his lack of intellectual curiosity, never reading, narcissism, etc., everything we saw before Election Day is now coming true and being verified day after day in the early days of his presidency. He's insecure. He's thin-skinned. He's concerned with optics rather than governance. He's not knowledgeable. He can't focus on anything when it comes to reading. You basically have a posse of low-information grifters running the country, which is exactly what we expected. This is the first week. Can you imagine the insanity that will take place and the damage that will be done in the 4 years to come?